Hello and welcome to Mama Says. I'm your host, Amber Autry, and this week I talked to Rebecca and Zoe. The way these two women love each other is so beautiful. It's so mutual, and I love the way Rebecca, the mother, talks about all she learned from Zoe, and vice versa. We talk about their family reunions, which is the coolest. You're going to love it. How they make family time priority over TV, and Rebecca's really cool experience with journaling. It goes back all the way to the 80s. It's really great. I know you're going to love this episode, so get cozy and enjoy this installment of Mama Says.
First, this is Rebecca, my mother, and just the literal goddess of the earth.
And that's Zoe.
All right, yes. What's up, ladies? How you feeling today? How you doing?
Good. It's a really good day here in Chicago. I've been having a good day just like running errands and getting stuff done. So like nothing too exciting, but sometimes not that exciting is good.
Right, especially in these times. So Zoe, you're in Chicago. Rebecca, where are you at?
I'm in Aztec, New Mexico.
Wow. Zoe, is that where you grew up?
Yeah, that's where I grew up. I was actually born in Chicago, but how old were we when we moved, Mom?
We
Was I?
I don't remember how old I was, but I think you were like 6 months.
Where did you move from? Oh, you moved from Chicago to what?
Yes.
What sparked that move, Rebecca?
um uh my husband, Zoe's dad, Chuck, has a son, and he was about 12 and living in Rio Rancho, just outside of Albuquerque, and he got hit by a car on his bicycle, and he almost died. And I was pregnant with Zoe at the time, and I was thinking, I don't know about raising a kid in Chicago. I don't know how to do that. I grew up on a farm. We ran around outside and just, animals. And I wasn't sure I would know how to raise a kid in Chicago. And so we decided to move to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to be closer to Chuck's son, Keaton, to try to help him with the transition because he had some head injury and that type of thing.
Wow, that must have been intense.
We figured God would bless us if we did the right thing. And I feel like he has blessed us, or she.
Hey.
Universe or whatever. I'm not sure.
Oh, I already love you so much. Yes, and totally. And both this question is for both of you. What was it like growing up in New Mexico and raising a kid in New Mexico?
Mom, you go first. What was it like raising kids in New Mexico? I'm curious to what you're going to say.
Well, New Mexico is the land of enchantment, and so it's so pretty here, and there's no like the way the sun shines, it doesn't shine in any other state like this state. I've been in not all the states, but a lot of states. It's just a very different culture, and I like different. I like to be kind of grabbed out of my what I think is my norm, and have something different. And it's just really pretty here. So it was nice. Kind of when we moved, well, we actually moved to Albuquerque first, and then I started working for a liquor distributor, and they offered me a job in Farmington, New Mexico. And I was like, Farmington? We moved to Farmington, and Aztec's a tiny little town near Farmington, and
It's much prettier and cuter, much more pretty and cute.
I loved it because it was also close to Durango. So we're right across the border from Durango, Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can just zip up to Durango, and that's the kind of thing that clinched it for me, because there's not a lot of culture in a really small town, and this area is kind of conservative, and I'm not a very conservative person.
You're like,
and, and Durango has a lot of culture. It's very interesting. There's a lot of history there. You can go hear jazz music. They have
They have ghost tours.
Yeah. And so, that kind of did it for me. And there's rivers around and mountains. And so you can go hiking. And so that was a little bit more my style, because I was kind of raised like that, outdoors a lot. So
where were you raised?
If I had been raised in Chicago, I think that I wouldn't have been worried about raising a kid in Chicago. I just didn't know how to do it. But I grew up in Ohio, and just outside of Kent, where Kent State University is, and we had 11 acres and a little barn and a garden and 9 siblings.
Wow, does your family still own that land?
No, my parents are both passed, and so we sold it, but everybody drives by.
Oh, that's amazing. That sounds like a beautiful childhood.
Yeah, it was great. We didn't really go very many places because we had all our friends at home with us.
Right.
And we're still friends.
You're meaning your siblings?
Yes.
How many siblings do you have?
9.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is a packed house.
Yeah.
They're fun, aren't they, Zoe?
Yeah, we would have big family reunions and it would be crazy. I mean, they nominate someone to be the president, vice president, secretary of the reunion, and you make a theme and you make games. And, it is an event.
That's amazing.
So the theme, they pick a theme and all of the games are, around that theme. And then people would dress up for whatever the theme was.
What's been your favorite theme?
What was your favorite one, Mom?
No, what was yours?
I really liked, I think that I liked when we did the time travel theme, because everyone was dressed different time periods. And I also liked when we did one that was school days. And so they broke everyone into groups of the jocks, the cheerleaders, the band
members. Although the band members weren't that kind of band members. They all had their guitars and
Beatles t-shirts and it was fun.
Yeah. And they had the goth people. I was in the goth group. And they choose your group. They choose your team. You don't choose your team. Yeah. So, and they do it on purpose so that you'll be on a team with maybe nieces and nephews that you don't hardly ever see. So that one whole day you're playing games with your team and you're spending that time with these people that live in different states or that you don't get to talk to, or you don't, so they're on your team. And so the president, the vice president, and the secretary, they decide who's going to be on what team and what the games are going to be, and everybody just goes along and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
I think I liked the year that Dad and the boys did was it Star Trek? And nobody was real excited about it, but they made it so much fun. And then I was helping them, and they were and at the end they always pick a team that wins. And they were let's just say these 2 teams are winning, and have a runoff, that they're tied, and it was all fake, So they made up these extra games for the runoff, and then they actually chose the team that just had the best attitude.
That's what. That is. I honestly, you guys win for coolest family reunion, hands down. I feel like not a lot of people are excited about going to family reunions, but can I be invited?
Yes, please. They would love it.
We haven't done one like that though since we haven't done that since my dad passed. My mom passed first, and after my dad passed. Now they have family reunions and everybody just gets together and drinks beer and talks. It's fun though.
That's really nice. So Zoe, what was it like growing up in New Mexico?
I'm really thankful I grew up there, I think, because it made me kind of get creative, go out of the box as far as entertainment goes. And so growing up, we didn't really have cable. We weren't allowed to have a TV or a computer in our room. We had one computer that we all shared, and you would have to log in how much time you spent on it. Nice. And so yeah, they were really good about like wanting us to like go out and have fun. I have two younger siblings, and we're really close, and so we would get to like play outside a lot and go run around in the hills. And I think that small town life was good because I've always had like a big personality, and I think if I was like already in a city, I just would have like been running around making so much trouble for myself.
Everybody here knows who Zoe is.
Thanks, Mom.
Rebecca, what made you I love that about like limiting the amount of screen time. What made you, were you raised like that, or what made you decide those?
Yeah, my dad was always real big on family. Like he told us, well, as soon as people have TVs in their rooms or computers in the rooms, they won't come out. They'll just stay in their room. And he always said that family came first, and that family was a big deal. And we did a lot of things. Like whenever we traveled, of course, we had a van. Instead of playing a radio or whatever, he taught us like show tunes and some of his favorite tunes, and we'd have different parts and we all sang together. And
imagine this, Amber, imagine this. Imagine 9 kids in the back of a van singing when my grandma hits a pig that ran across the road.
That is a movie. That's beautiful.
Well, and she was upset, but we all started laughing.
A pig? Where did that pig come from?
Well, we were driving down our road, and we lived out, we had a little, I mean, my dad was a doctor, but he was raised on a working farm, and he really wanted us to have the work ethic and be around animals and stuff. So he built a little barn. And I mean, he did a lot of things himself, And so we had chickens and a dog, and he had a cousin that auctioned off cattle, so he would get a couple of cows every year, or calves, and he would say
he'd always name them things like hamburger and like brisket. He'd name them.
Oh no!
Well, because we were going to butcher them, and he said he wanted us to think of them as food and not pets. So after a while, my brothers were naming them Twinkie and Ho Ho and stuff. And we had horses, but they were horses that other people couldn't keep and gave us, and we didn't really ride the horses a lot. They needed a lot of attention, and they were there.
Basically, they got the naughty horses. They were the place where the naughty horses go.
Yes, that's true. So, anyway, so that was kind of, family was a real big
That's
deal.
where the pig came from.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, the neighbors had a pig. I forgot where we were. The neighbors also had a farm driving down the road, and a pig got out and it ran across the road, and my mom hit it. And back then you didn't wear seatbelts, so we all like, it went everywhere. And she was really upset, and my mom hardly would get upset. She was always very upbeat and singing around the house kind of person. And I think she might have even said, "Oh shit." And back then, if your mom said, "Oh shit," you know what I mean? That was,
it was bad.
Yeah. So we just all started laughing, and she actually pulled over and went into the house and told them like, "Hey, I hit your pig. So, if it's dead, like, you guys can cook it and eat it." I don't know how she said it, but she didn't want it to go to waste, But they left it there to blow it up on the side of the road, and every time she drove by, it was a reminder. She was so sad,
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
But then we had a dent in the van, which we named Tinny, and that dent was always a reminder.
That's so awesome. Rebecca, what do you do now? What do you do to occupy your time?
Well, besides work, you mean?
Yeah, you can tell me about work or what your hobbies are. I just want to get to know you a little bit.
Oh, well, right now, this year, actually, when the kids are growing up, well, actually, it started with Chuck's son. When we moved here and he was growing up, Chuck started.
Chuck is my dad.
Okay. Yeah. He didn't really have any rights to talk about what his medical procedures when he got hit by the car would be. We weren't allowed to talk to the doctors and stuff because he was never married to his son's mother, and so they never went through like the custody stuff. So we sought joint custody, and it was not easy. And so I started writing to him, like writing a journal to him, just like, hey, this is what's going on. This is what your dad thinks. I want him to know, like later on in his life, that, hey, your dad's trying, he really loves you. I didn't know if he knew that. And so when my kids were little, I started books to them like that. And so each of them, Zoe probably has the most books where I would write stuff that they said or what they're like or things that we did with pictures of them and me. Even when I cut their hair, I would put a little piece of their hair in there so they could see what color it was.
Oh.
Or like when Chuck shaved his beard, I put it in a plastic bag and put it in there and things like that. Stuff from school and what they were interested in and their friends. But it gets harder as you get more kids, you know, and so they've been kind of sporadic. But this year I thought, okay, I was talking to Zoe, and I'm always tired at the end of the year because I sell champagne. I work for a liquor distributor, and I sell wine and champagne. This is our busy season. So when January 1 rolls around, I'm like beat,
Right.
And Zoe was saying, well, I'm going to celebrate the Lunar New Year. And, that sounds good to me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to celebrate the Lunar New Year. So I started like looking up stuff about the Lunar New Year. And of course, when we were young, we didn't go out to eat very much. But my dad had this favorite Chinese restaurant called Evergreen, and they knew him. I mean, he was a doctor there and stuff. And he would
and also because you'd have to call ahead to go there because he was bringing so many people. So they knew him.
So he would take the family there, even on family reunions. Like Zoe, my kids would go, everybody's kids would go, it was a buffet style or whatever. But I remember us sitting at the table and I had the placemats there, and you look at the Chinese zodiac and we'd tease each other. Oh, you're a horse or you're a pig or whatever, So I was born in the year of the rat. And so I looked up stuff for the rat because this is a year of the rat. And this is the year of the metal rat. And I was actually born in the year of the metal rat. So this is supposed to be my year.
This is your year.
So I thought, okay, so I cut out the stuff from, from the internet about the Chinese zodiac, and I put it in the book, and I said, I am going to write a journal called The Year of the Rat. I was kind of upset that Patti Smith put The Year of the Monkey because I had the idea first. No,
let it be known.
And so, anyway, so I started writing January 1st, not knowing that this year was going to be this year. And so I have this journal. At first I was like writing in the journal, like, because I usually get a book that's hardbound that you usually use for drawing, like you get it from a hobby store that people can draw. And I started cutting stuff out, but too much was happening. I didn't have time for that. So I started getting behind, and that was making me stressful. On May 11th, I just started taking copy paper and writing every day or every third day or whatever, and then printing out the stuff from that day, either pictures of us or stuff that was happening in the news or screenshots of stuff that Zoe put on Facebook or other people put on Facebook or funny stuff to kind of show like how people were responding to what was going on, not just the news stuff. And the stack's about this big now.
Wow.
And Isaac just got me, my son, for my birthday. He let me open it last night, and it's I didn't know how I was going to put it in a book because you have to laminate that stuff, and the bindings, Zoe knows the bindings, as we look at those books, they start to deteriorate. But he got me this book that's like made for that and has over 100 and some pages.
Wow.
Where it has a little, you slide everything in to protect it, and it's really cool. So I don't know when I'll have the chance to actually put it together, because I decided I'm not going to stop on January 1st. So I have to continue. The kids are going to go, what happened with the vaccine? No.
That is so cool.
So this journal's for my non-existent grandchildren.
Yeah, that is so cool and such a great idea for yourself, I'm sure, as like a way to express what you're feeling and going through during this time. And then, like you said, for your grandchildren, that's amazing. And Zoe, I know that you are very creative as well. I've seen you've been making collages on Facebook, which are beautiful and so cool. Do you feel like you get your creative side from your mom?
Yeah, I think that, well, I think both of my parents are very artistic and very creative. And I think that my mom doesn't give herself enough credit because she always kind of like put her life more on the back burner so that she could like help my dad support his art. And even though she's an amazing artist, she draws, she makes mandalas and stuff, like she has gone more of the like corporate money making route so that my dad could pursue his art. But you are such an artist, Mom. Like, and part of, I was also going to mention, it's so cool that my mom has been keeping these journals, because she even kept journals like when my dad and her lived in Chicago in the 80s and 90s.
Wow.
And my boyfriend right now, his dad and my dad did a show together in the early 90s, which is how they met. And my mom like journaled about the whole thing. There's like all this stuff about their relationship that we wouldn't have even known, that they forgot if my mom
I forgot all about it. They won an award together. They won a Joseph Jefferson citation in Chicago, and it was the first year they couldn't, like, there was 50 people who voted, 25 voted for Tony, Max's dad.
What is that award? What is that award?
It's basically like the big acting awards in Chicago. So like if you have a show that could get like Jeff nominated, it means that the Jeff committee would have to like send a certain amount of people to the show, and if they like it, then everybody on the committee has to come, and then they would rate it, like vote for actors and vote for different stuff. So it's like the biggest award ceremony that they have in Chicago for.
It's like a little Academy Award. So you could be like best director or best costumes or whatever. And both her boyfriend Max, his dad, and Chuck were both nominated for best actor that year.
Wow.
And they announced that there was a tie, and so I had a picture of them both on stage holding up their awards, but I totally forgot. Zoe found it. Tell them about finding what I had written.
Yeah, there was like part of the journal saying that like whenever they found out they won, my dad like stood up and like picked Tony up and like spun him around.
Oh.
Which is so funny, because if you know how tiny my dad is and how big Tony is, it's like, how would that happen?
Pure bliss and excitement.
But I didn't remember it until we read. I forgot all about that because life gets busy and so much time has passed, and you think you're going to remember things. Everybody thinks they're going to remember everything about their children when they were little and stuff they said, and you just don't, unless you write it down. So
totally. That is so cool. Speaking of remembering things about your children, Rebecca, what was Zoe like as a kid?
Oh my gosh, she just, well, even like the first day she was born, the doctor came into the room like the next morning and was like, all the babies in the nursery were crying except for Zoe, so I had to pinch her to make sure her lungs were okay. And we're like, oh, you pinched our baby. So pinch her. And then she was born in Chicago like on one of the coldest days of the year. So and I've never been that person like, oh, give me the baby. I'm like, no, I'm good. Don't, everyone's passing the baby around. I'm like, no, it's okay. I just,
Yeah.
And so here I have Zoe. I'm like, I don't know, So they said, it's so cold. Don't come to the hospital tomorrow. We'll send a home health care nurse out to your house to check on her. I'm like, okay, And so I put her in her crib, and the nurse comes and she's talking to me, and how's breastfeeding going? Everything's fine. She goes, well, let's go look at the baby. So we go in the room, and Zoe's just laying there in the crib, kind of like looking around, and the nurse like freaked out, and I was like, what's wrong? And she said, babies don't do that. They're either sleeping or when they wake up, they cry. And she's like, I've never just seen a baby just lay there like, just like it's all okay. And she was always like that. She was always like, it's all good. She always wanted to be everybody's friend. She was always excited about stuff. I remember we took her to like the fair for the first time. She's gonna ride rides and stuff, and she's so excited. And so she kept riding these little cars around. She was waving at everybody. People came up to us and gave us tickets so that she could continue riding. They were enjoying watching her.
But then I got ran over by the kiddie cars because
that was the next year.
Oh my gosh. That's so beautiful. That's amazing.
You did get run over by the kitty cat.
Oh yeah, not that part.
Yeah.
Rebecca, did you always want to be a mom?
Yes, yeah. I always wanted to be a mom. And we didn't think we could have Zoe. We were married 8 years before she came along.
Wow. And you're the oldest, Zoe?
Yeah, yep. They managed to pop out 2 more after me. I was like praying for siblings though. I didn't want to be an only child.
Really?
Yeah.
How long were
Yeah.
you
What's that?
how long were you an only child for? Like how?
Isaac was born when I was 4.
Okay. So
Yeah, and then Allie was born when I was 6.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What's the most beautiful thing you find about each other?
Mom,
Her spirit. She just got this. She lights up the room. She just has this great spirit. I believe in past lives, and I remember when she was born, one day I just started crying, and Chuck was like, "What's wrong?" I said, "I can't believe that God loves me so much that He let this little spirit come to me because she's amazing."
aw.
I just felt like so blessed that Zoe chose me as her mom because she's amazing, and I felt like she had so much to teach me. That I felt like we've been through a lot, but I just felt like she was an older soul than me, and I just was honored that she chose me.
That's beautiful. I totally believe in past lives too. So yeah. I would say that she gets that spirit from you just from like talking to you for like 20 minutes already. I'm like,
Right?
you guys are
Like,
both.
Mom, I think to me you're totally like just one of the most optimistic, upbeat people, and you're able to just see from like someone else's point of view. Like if someone did something terrible to you or hurt your feelings or something, you have been able to be like, of course, if they were needed it, you could be like, oh, screw you. But like most of the time, you've been able to, you will be like, well, they've got this and this going on, and they're taking this out on me for some reason, or they're like,
I was going to say that about you. That's how you are.
I think I got it from you. I like try to channel you because seriously, sometimes I feel like I'm freaking out, and you always make me feel like nothing is like worth freaking out over. You've always been like, well, why are you freaking out? All we have to do is do this now. And you just make it seem so simple. Like, don't
But
worry.
that
We'll
doesn't mean I don't have my own freak out moments.
Yeah. It's easier to handle other people that you love's freakouts, right? Because you're like on the outside.
Yeah, it's easier than handling your own.
You guys, would you consider yourself like best friends now? Or is it
yeah,
Yeah, I
we're
think
really
we
close.
talk almost every day on the phone. We don't really.
But with I started with all the kids. I really believe you should start talking to your kids when they're little. About all kinds of stuff. We let them watch all kinds of stuff on TV that other parents weren't letting their kids watch, and we just talk to them about it. And
Yeah.
I just think you have to start the conversation when they're really young. And because the parents who try to talk to their kids when they become teenagers, it's too late. You know what I mean? It's too late. You have to start when they're little, and you have to start treating them and not talk down to them. I mean, that's one thing that her dad, Chuck, taught me. He stayed home with her, um, when I went to work. And I just said to him, give her back to me when she can talk and tell me why she crying.
Right.
And he's so good with babies, so he's so good with babies. But he taught me that. He always talked to her like she was just another person, not like little kitty talk. And he showed her things and taught her things just as if, it didn't matter what age she was. And I liked that until we went with that. And I think that's a good way to be. And
Yeah,
so we've always talked.
I think I felt like one age my whole life almost, because I even remember like being a little kid, and if they sat me like at the kid table at a party or anything, I'd be so annoyed because I just like couldn't relate to a lot of the kids, like what they wanted to talk about and stuff. I like would much rather hang out with my parents' friends.
Yeah.
Well, when Zoe was born, she was like, we already had, Chuck doing theater. We already had a big theater family, and Zoe was, I think you were the first child of the theater family to be born. So we just took her to theater parties and stuff with us. We just took her with us. where we went. And so, she was used to that and used to being around the adults and already knew like how to act and be. And, we didn't have to scold her a whole bunch or tell her, don't do that or whatever. She knew like just, how to
That,
be in that setting.
that's so important and awesome, and obviously worked out well because Zoe's amazing. And I feel like a lot of it's weird because as a younger person, like without kids, you're like, oh, you get talked down to or whatever, and you're like, oh, I'll never do that. But then when you have a kid, you have to remind yourself of what you've already been through. Like you kind of forget it, and then you're like, oh, like this is just a human. I just have to talk to them like a human.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, studies say that men are better at that than women. And so, and Chuck raising the kids while I went to work, I think worked out well for all three of
every
them.
time you think it's like we see something cute and we automatically put a cutesy voice on.
Oh, 1,000%.
I see an animal, I'm like, it's a dog.
Definitely. The cat, yeah, how we talk to cats. Oh, come here.
Yeah.
Most definitely. So I know like a lot of moms say that, sometimes it's hard when their kids grow up, they still see them as their baby. And it's hard to like navigate, giving them advice or getting involved in their life. Have you had that experience, or what's your experience with that like?
No, not with Zoe. With Zoe, I always kind of felt like she was meant to go out. Like I said, I always felt like she was an older soul than me. So I always felt like she was meant to, go venture out and do things and stuff. So no, I don't feel like that really at all. It hasn't been hard. We talk about all kinds of stuff, with each other. I talked to her about my relationship with her dad. She talks to me about hers. I mean, we talk about all kinds of stuff,
I think that like I decided when I was a senior that like I was in high school, I was like so sick of going to school. So I just decided like I was going to graduate early and like do half like most of my classes online and just like graduate at semester. And my parents were so supportive of me graduating at 17. They like helped me and encouraged me, and like I knew that they were going to miss me, but they always like really wanted me, I think, to experience life on my own. And like I think that they knew that I had bigger like aspirations out there.
That's really awesome. It's a good support group to have.
I think it's important to support your kids with their decisions, even if you don't. I mean, you can tell them, I don't think this is a good decision and why, or talk to them about the pros and cons. But in the end, once they make the decision, no, I'm doing this, then I feel like it's very important then that you have to support them, even if later they say, oh, I think I made a mistake making this decision. I think it's not a mistake. None of it's a mistake. We're all where we're supposed to be, and it's all a learning experience. So even though, they might say that, I don't think there are mistakes.
Rebecca, I want you to pastor a church so I can go to it.
Oh. Did you know, fun fact, my parents used to have a home church, but my dad pastored, but they did have a home church.
Oh, wow. Well, so you were a pastor's wife. That's interesting. What was that like?
Oh, I never thought of that.
You're like, I'm just.
It was just something my dad was doing at the time. We were kind of like, well, Dad's hobby now is pastoring. We were just kind of like.
Well, he went to, I told him like, to the kids who are getting older, and I've always kind of supported us. I was like, this would be a good time for you to go back to school and get something. He goes, well, I want to go to theology school. I'm like, okay.
You're like, not really what I was.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking. I was thinking like a skill or something. But like I said, I supported him, so that's what he wanted to do. But the neat thing is, like, her dad is so intelligent and so smart, isn't he, Zoe? He's very well read. He could talk to you about any subject, and but he's also humble. If he doesn't know something, he doesn't make things up. Well, he might for a joke. As a joke, he might. I know he told Zoe one time that the news lady sits behind, or the news lady and newsman sit behind those desks because they didn't have legs, and she believed in.
I told all my friends at school that.
No.
Yeah.
He told Zoe all kinds of stuff like that. She always believed him. She's so gullible.
So sad.
Speaking of being
So the
what was
neat
it?
thing was, oh, what? Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
Well, the neat thing was that he became, the thing I really liked was he became like a Bible historian. So we were reading a part of the Bible, he could tell you like what was going on during that time, is why they said that, why they wrote that, and what feast was going on, or where they were at. They were standing over, this was by this wall that had this and that, and yeah, I don't know. You can
No,
tell.
that's really cool.
Not me, but so we were going to a church called The Gathering, and it kind of broke up, and so we started kind of hosting that at our house. But fewer and fewer people came, and it was a lot of work for him to get everything ready. And
right.
I think that like, even though my family is like kind of known for being like the hippies in our like small conservative area, and I think that like the people in the church really loved us, but I do think that coming to our house and doing church like was still too like exotic.
Different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what an experience, though. That is, your dad sounds really cool. That's really awesome.
It was cool, especially because like, and even now, I think my mom and I wouldn't necessarily call ourselves religious. I think we're really spiritual, and we do like take comfort in a lot of parts of the Bible, but we believe in a lot of other stuff too. And my dad never really believed in any of that until my mom and I found this church, and we were like, dude, you should check out that church. And all of a sudden he's like trying to run it. And we were like, okay, dude.
I love it.
Well, he sat down and he read the Bible as if it was just a book, a story,
Right.
and then he fell in love with Jesus,
Aww.
and I'm not exactly sure, he probably wouldn't say that if he was on this interview, he'd be saying something else, but this is, I don't know, that's kind of how I see it. And so
he'd be like, I don't know if I love Jesus as much as Jesus loves me.
Rebecca, did you grow up, was your family religious at all?
Yes, they were Catholic, and most of my siblings are still Catholic, but I'm not. I wanted the kids to have the experience, my kids, but a non-denominational church was more my style, but we never really found one that suited us. We went to one close by here and where we live, and like the pastor was getting ready to like baptize somebody, and all of a sudden he puts on a Cowboys shirt and is like, "Go Cowboys!" And then Chuck's like, "No." And then one of Zoe's friends was like, "Come to my church, you're gonna love it, and it's in a school, but we're raising money for a building and stuff." And so, we're there, and they're all excited. They're getting ready to move into their new church, and the pastor's up there going, "Well, we raised enough money to get all of our ushers matching outfits, and we're going to have a valet, and and Chuck just sat down. He actually started crying because, you should take that money and feed the hungry and, help the homeless. And I mean, that's really what it's all about, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And he was saying these churches are out in the rich areas of town away from everything. That's not where you want the downtrodden to stumble into your church and find some hope, or if they need help, the church is supposed to help people, not be out, in the rich suburbs just so they can collect money from the rich people so they can wear matching outfits. I mean, I don't know, so it's just been difficult for us to find a church where we really felt like, had the same type of philosophy. And so,
my
but
mom,
I do feel like I'm more spiritual than.
You were always the black sheep in your family, Mom, though. Like, out of the 10 kids, like, you've always been the one that like went your own way and like, lived your own life, did your own thing, and had your own views. Not that they don't have their own views, but I feel like out of all of them, you're the one that like broke away.
Yeah, but they all love me for it.
Of course. How could they not? You're awesome. You're so awesome. Zoe, how do you like I've said 3 times, your mom is amazing. What are some ways that you like we all turn out like our mothers, like, even if people don't want to. But what are some ways that you're like, oh my gosh, that is my mom?
There's definitely things that I'll say and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I just said that in a way that my mom would say it, or like where like my mom would say it, things like that all the time. Or whenever I'm like stressed out in the middle of the night and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I need to make a list. And that is something that my mom always does, is like make a list, and I'll be like, yeah, mom would tell me to make a list right now. And I'm like, yeah. And I think that's something else that I picked up from my mom, which is cool, is that my dad is the kind of person that, like, if he wants to do something, he would be like, okay, this is what I want, but before, like, to get there, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to make sure it's planned. And like, my mom is not like that. My mom is like, oh, we want this, let's go get it. She's like, just go for it, nothing will stop her. She doesn't need to do a million little like plans. And that's something that I've been like, okay, if I want to do this, why am I like putting it off? My mom would tell me just to do it and she would just make it happen.
That's awesome.
Well, I was telling somebody today, we were kind of talking about that. I said, yeah, like Zoe's swing set in the backyard was in one place. And I said to Chuck, hey, I think we should move it over to here because it's on the shade, whatever. And he was like, okay, before we do that, we got to make sure that this and that, and everything. So he went to work or went somewhere. And so I just went out there and moved it by myself. And I was just always doing stuff like that.
And fun fact, that's the swing set that we got with the money from the settlement from when I got ran over by the kiddie cars at the fair.
That's true.
Wow, I didn't know the kiddie car incident was that intense.
Yeah. She was getting off of the kiddie cars and she had one leg in and one leg out, and all the kids were coming out. Chuck was on one side, I was on the other, so we could wave to her. And this kid, they're supposed to have a fail-safe switch, but they didn't. This kid just flipped the switch and they started going. So she fell and the car started running out, like a car ran over her. And then since she started standing up again and another car hit her. So she kept falling. And every time she fell, she got closer and closer to where the gears are. Her hands were like getting closer to where the gears were.
What were you doing?
I
could see my mom. I could see my mom trying to get to me through the people.
Crowd of kids, and I was yelling at the guy, but he was yelling at the kids, and it was loud. And I think finally he shut it off. He realized,
But then the fair office, they got wind of what happened before we even got to the fair office, and they closed before we got there, so we couldn't talk to them. And
they wouldn't let us in.
It ended up being this whole crazy thing. They just like took pictures of my spine and stuff, and they gave us like what, $500?
No, we went to urgent care. So we went to urgent care to make sure, because she had a mark up her back on her shirt from where all the tires were hitting her.
Oh my
and we were like,
God.
what if she has issues later in life from whatever? So we took her to urgent care, and then we went and talked to a lawyer, and he said, oh, they're not going to do anything about this or whatever. But he did write, I think we wrote to them or complained or something, and they
sent us like $300 to
$700 or something.
So we got the swing set. So that was cool.
That's a win. That's a win.
They were like, listen, you're never going to the fair again. We will just put a swing set back there and make a sand pit and you'll be fine. Okay. Have friends over. You don't need to go anywhere. We'll make the popcorn. Like, yeah.
And we'll put a sandbox under there.
And then we'll get 8 cats and they'll all poop in it.
Are you physically okay, Zoe, from that incident?
Yes, yeah, I am. I'm good. I'm good from it. I know.
That is insane. So like what you guys obviously are very close. Is there anything about your relationship that maybe people wouldn't understand, or something unique to your guys' relationship that's different than maybe your siblings?
I think we talk about sex a lot more than like I don't think. Do you talk to Isaac and Allie about that stuff?
No.
Wow.
I don't think they want to talk about it. I don't think they want to. I would if they would talk to me about it, but I don't think they really want to.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But Yeah, we talk about that kind of thing.
And I know a lot of people who are afraid to like, and I mean, we don't just talk about it in a like, oh, I had a scare or a like one of like in a emergency sex situation. It's like we would just talk about it like normally, like we're friends or something. And I feel like a lot of people don't have that kind of relationship with their mom.
Like what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The crazy spots you did it in, things like that.
Yeah, yeah. That restroom at the art gallery.
Uh-oh.
That one wasn't me, so
That's amazing. Did that just come like, because I do the same thing with my mom, and it's, with my mom, she'll be like, oh, we're talking about this, but then like she'll just move forward. So like, where did it come? What did it just come naturally with you guys talking about sex with each other?
I think um I think that we kind of like from a younger age, I always was kind of like curious about things and would ask my mom stuff. What do you think, Mom? What would you say?
Well, yeah, I never was worried about talking about that type of thing because my dad was like one of the first sex educators in Ohio. He before they taught sex education in school, he was actually putting presentations together and pushing for that. And
Really?
and he thought it was really important that kids um, were educated so that they weren't, because he would have kids or even adults come in and say, I don't know how we got pregnant. She stood on her head after we had sex, and stuff like that. And, there's things that friends at school would tell him. So he thought it was really important that there was sex education in school, And so he was one of the first to push for that. So with us 10 kids, he would say, I think he also kind of wanted to know where each one of us was at, So he was like, hey, I got to give a presentation to a church group, and they're all different ages. So how about if you all sit here, I'll give it to you guys and think of the hardest questions you can think of to ask me so I'm prepared for their questions. And I believe them, I was like, oh, he might come off dumb. So,
You can't embarrass the whole family now.
so he actually like did that with all of us, and we're all together in front of us, and we asked him questions, and it probably gave him an idea where each one of us was at. But it was important to him that that was something that was discussed, and you didn't shy away from it with your kids, and he did that with us. And
That
so
is
I just felt like it was a healthy thing to do if the kids want to do it. Sometimes the kids aren't as comfortable.
I do remember when I like told my mom I lost my virginity. I had just gotten my wisdom teeth out, and my boyfriend at the time broke up with me on the day I got my wisdom teeth out. And I was so emotional and drugged up, and I was crying, and I was like, I had sex with him. And my mom was just like, I know.
They always know. What is that? Like, could you just tell that she was so emotionally torn up that you're like, there's something deeper here?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
What?
Oh, you don't remember?
No, I don't remember what it was that
I
made
do.
me know that you had sex.
I do. I remember what it
Was it the Joy of Sex book and the condoms in your purse? Is that
Yes.
it?
Yes.
Oh. I had to go get something out of her purse. Now I do remember that. Yeah. I had to get something out of her purse, and she had this little tiny Joy of Sex book, which I told them I had read when I wanted to learn
That's
about.
why I bought it. I bought it
Yeah,
because my mom told me that she read it from her dad's office. And I was like, then maybe I should read that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I saw the little book in there and the condoms. I was like, oh, okay.
Did you confront her about it, or were you just like, oh, all right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, why? I mean, she's having sex. I mean,
My mom is also, she's done this a lot where she said she never wanted to like train us to lie to her. So like if we went to a movie and we came home and like maybe we smoked weed or something, she wasn't like going to be like, did you smoke weed? Because we would say no. Or she wasn't going to be like, did you have sex? Because you would say no. And then it's like you get used to saying no and stuff. So like she didn't want us to train us to lie to her. So she always would just, she was pretty chilled out, and kind of like was there and making sure we were okay, but also like wanted us to kind of.
well, yeah. They would be in more trouble if they lied to me than if they told me the truth and they thought that was something that was really bad. I'd rather they were honest with me. And so yeah.
1,000%. That's the way. My mom was always like, do whatever you want, but just let me know where you are. Like, just so I know you're safe.
There's times that my mom, like, definitely, I remember actually, I was a really big snitch on myself. I remember going to a party and the girls got some older guys to like bring alcohol over, and I like texted my mom and was like, you need to come get me right now from this party. And like,
well, she had just taught me how to text that day. Like, yeah, and I was like, I said, oh, I'll never use this, but you can teach me. She's like, no, Mom, you'll want to text sometime. So she texted me, and actually she told me I needed to like call her and make up an excuse so they didn't think it was weird I was picking her up. And so I called her, and after I got her text, and I said, you know what, I have to run into work and I really need you to come home and watch your siblings. And I said, so I'm going to come get you. And she's like, really?
Oh, darn.
Oh, yeah. And I felt bad because she was dropping me off to just like a girls sleepover, and now it's like, hey, can you come pick me up from this party?
No, but I was glad that she did that, you know.
Right. And it's because you raised her right, you know, like she felt like she could trust you, and that's the most important.
Thank you.
Really
yeah,
is.
she did good.
Oh,
So,
you're great.
Oh,
girl. You're born that way.
So sweet.
Just looking around.
Everything's chill. So Rebecca, what would be if you could give universal advice to the kids listening to this, you know, everybody, what would be your mama says advice as a mom?
Kids or other parents?
Either one.
I don't know. I just think it's important that you, like I said before, that you start the relationship, like, you know, talking about everything and include them when they're really little. You know, that's when the relationship begins. It doesn't start when they get a little bit older. I just think that that's important, you know.
I think that's great. I think that's really good advice. It worked for you.
I was worried. No,
you're wonderful. So we're ending.
Around, I was gonna go, oh, I should have said that.
No, you're so great. Please. We're nearing the end of our time together, and it's been so much fun talking to you guys. I honestly love your guys' energy and spirit. I'm so grateful to you. But before we end it, since this is stamped in time forever, kind of like Rebecca's journals of memories, what would you guys like each other to know forever?
Aw, Mom, I would like you to know forever just that I love you, and I feel like you've just done a great job of being a mom and being a friend and just like listening and just being there. Like, you are the best at just like showing up and being there, and that has like made the world of difference to me, and I know to Isaac and Allie too.
Oh, you're so sweet. I want you to know that you've made this journey of mine just full of joy and wonder and new things. You've taught me so much. I mean, I don't know if I would be where I'm at without you in my life. You're amazing.
Thanks,
and
Mom.
Thank you for choosing me.
Oh, thank you for keeping me. I love you.
I love you.